you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
This is Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the earliest things that makes it official. Welcome to 16 years and 2,500 episodes, 2,800 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. We bring into the most wonderful minds, the most amazing stories, journeys, lessons of life, all the folks that want to take advantage of sharing with you their wonderful stories, their journeys, and help you improve the quality of yours. What a beautiful thing that we have here on the Chris Voss Show. Anyway, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet.
Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind.
Today's featured author is brought to you by Majestic Authors Media, specializing in strategic marketing and publishing to help authors reach their ideal audience and maximize their book success, turning powerful messages into global impact, one story at a time. Today we have an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his books. He's written over 11 different books, and we're going to get into it with him today. His first book we'll be talking about is a series. It is entitled The Revival at Rockville by Joseph B. Onyango Okello. So we're going to get into it with him and his journey and everything about his books. He teaches philosophy and ethics at churches at Ashbury Theological Seminary.
Correct, yes.
He's also a pastor at one of the churches in Geneva, Florida. He's written several books, and almost all of them can be found on Amazon. Besides the work he does, he likes to run, and his age has been catching up to him pretty quickly, evidently. Welcome to the show. How are you, Joseph?
I am well. Thank you, Chris. Nice to meet you today.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone for being here. Give us your .coms. Where can people find out more about you on the interwebs?
It would be www.onyangookello.com.
Well, give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book?
There's this book that we're talking about, The Revival at Rockville. It's a story that I was just sitting down, getting bored, not knowing what to do after academic work, and then I decided, let me put together a novel that helps to explain or at least illustrate how good overcomes evil. And that's how I got going onto this novel. And then the sequel, of course, is a spin-off of that. Yeah.
And you have a book 2 out for Revival of Rockville. We'll talk about here in a second.
Yes,
so talk to us about what's the details in here. Tell us about the protagonists and what they're up to.
It begins with this florist called Louella Goodman. She's trying to set up a business, and she's quite successful in her business. And then there's this mogul who seems to be interested in taking over that business and approaches Louella Goodman and asks, hey, can we be partners? And Louella says, no, I want to be my own person. And then there is a raid at that flower shop. It's vandalized, and it turns out that the mogul is really behind it. And as a detective is beginning to get interested in finding out who exactly did this, the detective is poisoned. I don't want to give the whole story, because if you really want to find the gist of the story, buy the book.
That's what we always say on the Chris Voss Show. We give you the teaser, so you have.
That's correct. That's correct.
And you've incorporated Christian values in here.
Absolutely, yeah, because I'm a pastor, and that's how I operate, and that's my vantage point. I try to be as biblical as I can, but at the same time, I'm sensitive to the needs of the public. And when I do that, I present it in a way that I think anybody can read and appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah. And she works with the guidance of her pastor during the story.
Yes, she works with her pastor. The pastor's name is Robert Matthews. And as Louella begins to get closer and closer to becoming a seasoned believer, that is when things begin to get dicey with her boss and with the boss's nephew. Not her boss, but this mogul. His nephew is interested in her, but then the nephew has different values that really don't line up with Louella's Christian values. And so there's a little bit of a clash of worldviews, but it gets to a point where as Louella refuses to hand over the business to the mogul, the mogul also decides to take over her home.
Wow.
He has this ability to go behind the scenes and be able to forge a certificate, a title, and the home is transferred to him. So he owns it and gives Louella her marching orders to get out of the home. So
Wow.
because of that, Louella talks to the nephew of the mogul, and somehow he's able to figure out that his uncle was behind this. And so there's a little bit of a clash in terms of family, dynamics. And things begin to get dicey as you get along to a point where, the whole situation gets to the pastor, and the pastor finds himself also in the crossfire to a point where his church is almost getting into trouble.
Oh, wow.
With the authorities. In fact, it does get into trouble with the authorities. So you get to a point where you have this whole battalion of policemen descending on that very building. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people going on here. Now, the book has this first book, and then there's a second book. Does Louella process is the main character through these two books, or is it Detective Rick?
Yes, she is a main character in the first book. She really does appear in the second book. But the second book, the main character is a certain gentleman called Gabe.
Oh.
Gabe comes in and he has these supernatural abilities to, heal people. He has the supernatural abilities to fix broken things. And at some point, Louella and her husband now get into an accident. And that's because there's another antagonist in the second book who comes in. His name is Ref. And Ref begins to have this cosmic battle with Gabe. And so as they are fighting, he somewhat lures Louella and her husband to some kind of a route that puts them in an accident. When that happens, Gabe comes, helps them out, and he gets them to the emergency room, but he comes and somehow supernaturally fixes that car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I need him because we just replaced some struts on the car. So I need that sort of supernatural power to fix cars.
It's really it's a wishful thinking on my part that I wish things would be fixed in this way. But
that'd be good. Snap of the fingers, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. El fixo, el caro.
Correct.
So that's the spell, folks. Don't be careful how you use it. Anyway, so you've got two books now. Do you see this as a continuing series with your protagonist?
Yes. In fact, I have just worked on the first chapter of Revival at Rockville 3.
Oh.
I will continue with the same idea. And this is going to be the last one, I think. It's sort of like a trilogy of some kind. And I really want to bring that story to a close.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm working on the third one. Yeah.
People love these continuums. They love the stories. They like following the characters. It's kind of funny how they just follow the characters around and stuff.
Yeah.
So wonderful stuff there. Now, are you wrapping the series because you kind of feel like it's in the can and you want to do something else, or?
You know what? I'm wrapping the series because I want to bring it to an end. But I cannot really confirm that I'll bring it to an end. I just feel like maybe it's time for me to end this series, but it is very, very possible. You know how it is sometimes, even with movie makers. they have a reunion of some kind. Who knows? I might do some kind of a revival at Rockville reunion after this third one. It is very cool. Yeah.
I mean, we've had so many authors on the show, a lot actually, 2,800, bit roughly, and a lot of them told me they're like, yeah, I did. They'll have a 15-part book series, and they're like, yeah, I only started as a book, and then people were bugging me to write another book, and I was like, okay, you have another book, and then pretty soon it just kind of caught on and it became a thing. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll take storylines and branch them off with characters, and then this character will go over there and then start a whole new. So it's kind of interesting. And yeah, I've kind of learned that with others. It's just the inspiration is there, and people really do following the characters. They fall in love with the characters, and sometimes they tell you more when they see you. Your character. Like I know we have one author. She's about 90, and she's got about 70 books, I think now. And people come up to her at book signings and tell her stuff about her characters that she didn't even realize. Like one time told her, they go, "Do you know the detective is an alcoholic?" And she was like, "No, he's not." And they're like, "No, he is. I mean, think about it." And she thought, she's like, "Holy crap! I formatted him after my alcoholic ex-husband, and yeah, he's an alcoholic." And then she had to, deal with that in future books. But it's always interesting how these stories go and journeys, and that's what makes them so wonderful. Now you've written 11 books total. Tell us about some of the other ones, maybe your favorites.
They can be split into 3 different categories. There's the highly academic work that I do because of, what I do as a professor at Asbury Theological Seminary. And the ones that are in the academic arena would be one called A History and Critique of Methodological Naturalism. And then the second one would be called Evil and Pain. And the third one is also called A Judeo-Christian Appraisal of Major Theories of Truth. Basically speaking, if you go to the first one that I just mentioned, A History and Critique of Methodological Naturalism, that was really my doctoral dissertation. And if you want to get bored, that's the book to read. Because I was basically working on a supernaturalistic attempt to explain the origins of the universe in light of what we know in terms of Darwinian evolution. And I was trying to give a supernaturalistic alternative in the philosophical arena. So I was basically trying to defend the doctrine of supernatural creation. That's what I was trying to do. And you come to the book Evil and Pain, it is also an attempt to show that the problem of evil, which is usually the strongest challenge to belief in God, it is really not as strong as people take it to be. And that's my attempt to show that it isn't. And the third one is the attempt to show that there is a way to believe and trust and think that a divine being, namely God, exists based on the nature of truth. That is basically the approach that it is taking. So those 3 are very squarely on the academic front. And then you have the semi-academic, semi-pastoral, would be one called Revisiting God. It is very much a simplified version of my very first book, and I try to make it more accessible. The second one is called Heaven, God's Solution to Human Pain. It is also an attempt to show that, the hope of heaven is really your best recourse and the best solution to human pain. There, I try to say that you will never find anything good here on earth for which heaven lacks an infinitely better substitute. That's the basic argument in that book. And then I have another one on, it's mostly for pastors. It is called How to Become a Dynamic Biblical Preacher. And so it walks the person who is interested in doing public speaking to learn the principles of sermon preparation and speaking and all that. And then we have another one called Wilderness Moments. Wilderness Moments basically speaks to believers who are struggling with their faith. They are finding themselves in what I would call a spiritual wilderness. And so they are struggling with their faith. It's based off of Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it tries to show that wilderness moments are there to humble us, to test us, to teach us, and sometimes to discipline us. And I offer a solution that God walks with you in your times of wilderness. And then I have two more, one called Why Your Life Matters. It's basically just an attempt to help you find meaning in your life. And the argument there is the reason your life matters is because there'll never be another you. There just won't ever be another you. Even a cloned version of you would not be another you, because a cloned version does not have the memories that you do have, the experiences that you do have. So a cloned version of you would never be you. Called Why Your Life Matters. And then another one called Developing Intimacy with God, how to know not only that God exists, but to grow in a deeper relationship with Him. Yep, those are the basic texts and books that I have. Yeah.
You've been quite prolific. What is it that you enjoy about writing? What is it that draws you to it? And when did you start writing, too?
Oh, I started writing in 2000 after I completed my doctoral studies at the University of Kentucky. The first big book that I wrote, of course, was that dissertation. I take that back. There was a book I authored with a friend called James Walter Gustafson called The Quest for Truth. So that would have been in 2003. But in terms of writing books on my own as an author, I would say 2007 would be very accurate as the date that I started, or the year that I started writing. You come to 2008, I released a book. 2009, I released a book. 2010, I think I released a book. And the thing that stopped me from writing was how my wife began to battle cancer. And when she battled cancer, breast cancer, here is where my faith and belief was severely tested. Do I really believe what I preach? Do I really believe what I proclaim? And after walking with her through that journey and seeing what I take to be God's healing power, walking her through that journey with cancer, I realized that this is no fairy tale. When you talk about faith in God, it is really about something that is real, something that you experience, even though you don't see Him, but you do experience Him.
That's wonderful. After you do your doctorate or the dissertation, I think.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of writing. So that will definitely prep you for future books.
Oh, yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. For those. Correct.
Now, do you have an anticipated date for the third book that you're working on?
Oh, that'll be next year. That'll be probably sometime in January, February of next year, because I'm at a very initial stage of writing. I've just done the first chapter, and I try to make each chapter very short. I try to make each chapter 4 or 5 pages short. I don't want it to be too long because I want to keep the reader engaged. I want the reader to keep going. After reading one chapter, he will be like, yeah, I want to read the next chapter. Or, you know what, let me set this book aside, go get myself a cup of coffee, come back and continue. Rather than put somebody in a situation where he reads the first page, the second page, and the third page is like, when is this chapter going to end? So I want to make sure that I keep the reader engaged in terms of reading the book. So that's why I wanted to, I'm taking my time to make sure that, if I'm to finish it anytime soon, the soonest will probably be February of next year.
That should be interesting to see come out and stuff. And is there any other books maybe you're cooking on that you're thinking about doing?
Right now, I am writing a second book on truth. The second book on truth, and in fact, I'm on chapter 3. I am trying to come up, those of you who are familiar with philosophy will know this. There's an argument for the existence of God called the ontological argument for the existence of God. This book is a spin-off of that. It is called the alethic ontological argument for the existence of God. The Greek word for truth is aletheia. I am calling it alethic as in it's the truth argument for the existence of God, or the truth ontological argument for the existence of God. God is usually considered by Orthodox Christian believers as omniscient. That is, He knows everything. And my argument there is, if we can gather together every true sentence in the world, that constitutes omniscience. And because it constitutes omniscience, my argument there is a true sentence does not just exist on its own. As a certain thinker called Gottlob Frege said, a true sentence must have been thought into existence by a certain mind. And I argue that the mind of God did that. Yeah.
Wonderful stuff there. What advice would you give people who want to start writing, or maybe they're considering themselves a potential author, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh, just start writing. Just sit down. Just sit down and begin typing away on your computer. Just type away. For some people, that's how they do it. For other people, there is a plan. There's a game plan that you put in place. What do you want to accomplish in your writing? Write it down. I think it's Dale Carnegie who said, a problem once written, it's half solved. So if you write it down, you have half solved the problem of getting down to write. Just put down an idea. What exactly do you want to write about? And then begin asking yourself, how many subpoints do I want in this idea? And write down the subpoints and then ask yourself, for each subpoint, how many subpoints will I want for each of those subpoints? Write them down. Before you know it, you'll be having materials to put together and write. It also depends on what genre you're looking at. Is it inspirational? Is it a novel? Is it academic? So identify that as well and see how far you want to go with that.
I totally agree with you on the just right part.
Yeah.
I've told the story many times on the show, but it's probably important to reiterate. I remember when I wrote my book, I had joined a accountability group with 2 or 3 other wonderful people, and they were wonderfully inspirational and helped me get it done. And, it was a thing where we're just like, okay, we'll just write an hour a day, right? Just write an hour a day. And that was the goal. And if somebody fell off, we kind of chastise each other a little bit, give each other a little ribbing, and hey, come on, man, you got to carry your weight.
Yeah.
And accountability group. And I remember I was the only one doing what I would call puke on the page. And I would just be like, write it all down. And I would just, and it was helpful because I had most of the stories. These are stories of my business life. And so it was like pretty easy to hammer it all down. I'd been telling these stories for millions of years, but I noticed my friends in the group, and I see this with a lot of authors, they spend a lot of time trying to craft each sentence and edit it. They write a sentence, edit it, try and rewrite it. And I mean, they were just micromanaging crazily. And I was the only one out of the 4 that got the book done. I think the other one of the 4 or 3 got their book finally done years later.
Yeah.
But hopefully we started them on that journey. But it was because like you said, I just sat down and just started writing. I mean, it was good, bad, ugly, the worst. I called it puking on the page because I would just, I just write for hours. I didn't worry about spelling. That was the other thing they were doing. They'd write a line and then try and figure out where the commas and the spelling went. And I was just like, no, there's going to be time for editing. Plus,
give that to the editor.
Give that to the editor.
Yeah.
Let him do all the comments and
correct.
commas and periods.
Yeah.
So I just blurred it all out. And then after a while, it was just about shaping it and then filling in some of the holes and explaining, maybe drilling down the stories. Then I got good at expanding the stories, with more details and kind of fleshing them out so they made more sense. And just write. I mean, I think too many people overthink it.
Yeah, just write. In fact, my professor told me, I remember, just try and write a page each day. By the end of the year, you'll have 365 pages.
Oh, there you go. This is really important there. What do you find in a lot of what you write about plays into your work as a pastor? Tell us about some of the things you do as a pastor, maybe speaking engagements you do over there and things of that nature.
Yeah, I speak every Sunday in my church. It's called Geneva Methodist Church. I speak there every Sunday. I spoke there yesterday. This is Monday. I spoke there yesterday. And then, of course, I make sure that I preach through a series going through texts of scripture. I also speak internationally. I just came back from Ethiopia from a speaking engagement. I'll be speaking in Kenya in September. So I do quite a bit of international speaking. I do a lot of speaking here in the United States. In fact, at the time I found myself speaking somewhere in the US every week. it just felt so tiring, but I enjoy doing that. I enjoy speaking, and I don't just speak in a church setting. I also make presentations in academic settings as well, because that's what I do. That's who I am. And then, of course, the pastoral ministry involves a lot of counseling, sitting down to give somebody a shoulder to cry on when he or she is grieving. That's one of the things I do, just visiting them in their homes, visiting them in their hospitals. And I've been able to experience the practical aspects with the theoretical aspect of the Christian faith. I've been able to mesh them together. It has given me quite an interesting experience over the past couple of years. I was a pastor in my original home country, Kenya, for 2 years, and then I came to the United States, was a pastor for 16 years in a Black church setting, and then I've been a pastor now for 14 years in an Anglo-American church setting. So I'm quite familiar with both traditions. So here I am from Kenya, pastoring a Black church and then an Anglo-American church. I've had just a wide array of cultural experiences in my life.
You're just pastoring all over the world there at your pace.
Pretty much. I would say so. Yeah.
Both sides of the globe, I guess,
Correct.
technically. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful to share your message and inspire other people to write and everything else. As you move forward, do you see yourself maybe becoming a full-time author, or do you still want to continue the pastor work?
I want to continue doing all three, author, pastoring, and being a professor. And with the authoring, for one of them actually is for philanthropic reasons, like the revival at Rockville. The reason I wrote that book is because I want to make sure that the proceeds from that book are used for building a retreat center in the city of Norlina, North Carolina. As in, I will not keep that money. I will use the proceeds to build that retreat center. It's going to cost us about $45 million. I'm talking about us. By that, I'm talking about a group called Kenya Christian Fellowship in America. Our purpose is to build a retreat center there that has liberal arts college as well. And the goal is to bring high-tech, state-of-the-art education to the residents of North Carolina and beyond. And so my goal is to see if, the sale of that book could do that. So I want to continue to use my gifts and talents for those kinds of philanthropic reasons. And that's why, to answer your question, I want to do all three. I want to stay as an author, I want to stay as a pastor, and stay as a professor for as long as God will allow me to do so.
What do you usually teach as a professor?
Say that again, please.
What do you teach as a professor?
I teach philosophy.
Philosophy.
That's my area. Philosophy, critical thinking. I taught philosophy at the University of Kentucky for 6 years.
Wow.
When I was trying to complete my dissertation. And when I did that, Asbury Theological Seminary invited me now to teach philosophy at Asbury. So I teach philosophy at Asbury Theological Seminary in Wilmore, Kentucky. But they also have a site right here in Orlando, Florida, and that's where I am based, and I teach philosophy here. So I teach philosophy and all the related subjects with philosophy, as well as theology. Those are the two subjects that I teach, but my area is philosophy.
Do you have a favorite philosopher?
Oh, yeah. When it comes to Christian philosophy, my favorite philosopher is Immanuel Kant. Not Immanuel Kant, I'm sorry, Alvin Plantinga. When it comes to non-Christian secular philosophy, I find myself levitating towards Immanuel Kant. Because he had some weird ideas that I thought would be very interesting if they were true. So I enjoy reading Immanuel Kant.
That's what I do.
And then Plato. I really like Plato as well.
Plato.
I like Plato.
He's big.
Aristotle is a little elusive to me, but I enjoy reading his work. I enjoy reading his Nicomachean Ethics. I enjoy reading his posterior analytics and his metaphysics and his physics. I enjoy reading all that.
What else should I be asking you, or you want people to know about maybe future speaking engagements or events you're holding? What else maybe should we know about you?
I am a dad, and I'm just your normal dad, and I'm a husband. And the kinds of things I've gone through have not been easy with my wife battling cancer and all that. it puts your philosophy to the test. It puts your theology to the test. Do you really, really, really believe what you talk about and what you teach? I think it was C.S. Lewis, the Christian philosopher, who said, you don't know if you're willing to believe anything unless that belief becomes a matter of life and death to you. And so he said, you can believe, for example, that a rope could cord a box. But if you were going to use that rope to hang over a cliff, you wonder whether it's strong enough to hold you. You don't really know whether you're willing to believe something unless that belief becomes a matter of life and death to you. So, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and, I deal with issues just like everybody else.
Yeah. Being a dad's hard, but when you're facing down the scope of trials and tribulations like cancer, you're thinking to yourself, why is this happening?
Exactly.
Why is this, happening to me? What did I do wrong? Does the world hate me? Does God hate me? All that stuff. And it can test your face, but that's an interesting thing. And then again, that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Correct.
That's one of the great things we have on the show is stories of people's survival and overcoming adversity, sometimes cancer, death. It's just about whatever anything is. I mean, every life seems to have some sort of challenge that comes into it, if not several. I'm trying to collect them all at this pace. 58. I'm just doing a bingo tour of all the possible whatever stuff you can have there. I'm just kidding. Please don't do that loud. But you overcome one thing and then something else will come up. But helps you usually grow if you approach it right, and it is how you approach things.
Correct.
So, final thoughts and pitch out to people to order up your books, get to know you better on your .coms, and give us your .coms as we go out.
Yeah, let me just encourage the viewers. Help build the retreat center by buying that book, Revival at Rockville, the first one. Just help build the retreat center by buying that book. The proceeds from that book will go towards building the retreat center. And when I make this appeal to the reader or to the listener, I am fully aware that somebody could say, how do we know that you will keep that money to yourself? But I can answer that question by taking you to the book of Acts, Acts chapter 5, where a certain gentleman called Ananias and Sapphira made a pledge, public pledge, that whatever they sell, they'll put it into the kitty, and they did not do that. And God had to hold them accountable for it. I know that I'm accountable to God. When this book sells, I will definitely hand over the funds, the proceeds, right up to the treasurer of Kenya Christian Fellowship in America. And they will help build that retreat center for the work of maintaining and sustaining authentic Christianity as we know it today. So help build the retreat center by buying that book, and I'll take them. And by the way, if you go to my website, you can actually buy the book directly. The book directly. Yeah, I mean, you can actually buy an ebook and put in fact, the ebook is much cheaper than the actual hard copy. It's much, much, much cheaper. So if you can just buy it, it'll help the retreat center.
And the book's it looks like it's also cheaper. You pay a markup to Amazon because Amazon has to take their cut, right? And so it looks like it's cheaper to buy directly through your website.
Yes, it is. It is.
Folks, buy it directly from the website. Support your local authors or your authors. They're local. The world's a small place nowadays. Social media, it's all local.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's been just wonderful to have you on the show, Joseph. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. It's been such an honor and pleasure.
The honor is mine, sir.
Yeah.
I'll arm wrestle you for it. But you got more books than I do, so you win. So thank you very much, Joseph, for coming to the show. Really appreciate
that. Thanks.
Thanks, Ron, for tuning in. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold. It starts with the first book in the series, The Revival at Rockville. Out now. You can find a link for it on the Chris Voss Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTok and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, Joseph, we got that